Chapter 1, Rail Transportation Operation. There are four primary functions of the railway transportation operation: military, commercial railways. These functions include the following: train operation, maintenance of the way, maintenance of equipment, and train control. The NATO and the U.S. war plans involving extensive rail use, rail transportation operations in Europe, and the host nation provided the service. Rail service in the theater. Each potential host nation in the NATO will emphasize on Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, and France operate sophisticated modern railway systems. The western area of Europe offers multiple routing possibilities. Plenty of the marshalling lands, discharge loading and terminals, rail line repair, and equipment maintenance facilities dispersed throughout the system. The European rail system poses the following potential limiting factors: primary dependence of the electrified training operation, civilian dependence on uninterpreted rail support, improbability of civilian rail personnel being used in the CZ Corps and Division. Personnel should be consulted with complying with the A move to P2 before moving the trains across NATO borders. The Army uses areas existing rail structure as such as possible to support the TNA. The following provides the support needed to operate the rail system with extensive rail construction for the major engineering reconstruction. Existing tracks, locomotive rolling stock, switch models, marshalling yards. Extensive rail construction is beyond the capabilities of military force except for during the prolonged war with the civil war forces would be employed to operate the railroad. 1-4. In the past, the U.S. Army Transportation Railway bridges, groups of battalions, and so forth operated theater rail system rail units and supplied the existing host nation rail system or controls or operate contingency area rail systems. In some cases, the service organization is much smaller than what is needed in the past. Establishment of the rail operation 1-5. There are many similarities between the military and commercial railways. Military roads operate on the same basic principles of commercial railroads. These principles are: locomotives pull the cars loaded on the freight and passenger over miles of the track. Train movements are controlled and scheduled in single communication. Some of the trains have superiority over the others. Alright, establishment of rail operations. There are many similarities in military commercial railways. Military roads operate on the same basic principles of commercial railroads. The principles are: locomotives pull the cars loaded the freight and passenger over miles of the track. Train movements are controlled by schedule and signal communication. Some trains have superiority over others. 1-6 rail operations in the theater may consist of a broad international pre-invasion invasion plan based on a limited available intelligence data. As more detailed data becomes available, the initial plan is modified. Initial and the pre-invasion planning provides a general estimate of the potential movement of the capability of a particular rail system in the theater. Phase operations 1-7. Military rail operations are accomplished in the three phases. The phases are normally conducted in consequences, however, depending on the military requirements of Phase 2 and Phase 3 operations, may be initiated without progression through the preceding phases and regressing to the previous phase. The phases are to reduce requirements for military units and personnel for the railway operations. Therefore, skilled local labor and host nations S host nation services primarily consideration initial phase 2 and phase 3 operations. In discussing the phases, the term of civilian labor and host nation support are not synonymous with host nation support, can be other civilian labor. Phase 1. Only the military personnel conducted in phase 1 operation. Personally used the phase during the early stages of the military operation. Phase 1 is used in near and civilian and division where there is need for the military and where security restricts the employment of the civilians. Phase 2. The phase of joint military operation under the direct military supervision in the phase of the military local civilian rail personnel operating the maintaining the railways. Phase 3, 110. A phase 3 operation normally used in the rear areas of the COMZ, local civilian railway personnel operating, maintaining railway lines under the direction and supervision of the highest military railway echelon in the theater. The operation is established as soon as practicable under the operation. Military rail personnel may be released and for the duty of the more critical areas. Method of operation. Existing railway facilities supporting military operations and theater communication railway signal facilities can be damaged, destroyed, and inoperative. They may include any form of centralized traffic and control, electrical operated interlocking plants, automatic block signals, rail transportation operations. The following four methods of training operation in theater. The fleet operation. This operation, an emergency measure, is discontinued as soon as possible because of the limits of railway capacity. Upon entry of the 30, theater communications may not exist. There may be only a single stretch of track without no sidings and passable tracking. Low trains are run forward until the tracks are rail-headed are full Trains are unloaded and returned to the port or point of the origin. Group trains are also make the good targets for enemies. Block operation. The operation permits the train to operate from one block to the next station. The train operates one block and another under the authority of the train movement operation station agent. The two type of the block operates the positive permissive. Positive block operation. In the operation, using the block is limited into one train at a time. The train cannot stop if it is attacked or if the line is obstructed. It can also back up. It can also back up at last to the last station pass to the safe place where wait until the track is secure before proceeding. The operation has definite security advantages, but permissive operations and more efficient. Permissive block operation. Permissive block operation. In this operation, more than one train is moving in the same direction. Therefore, the trains may occupy the same block at the same time. The load and empty cars loaded forward towards the capacity of 200 car rail-headed yards from the port and terminal, and the railhead returns back to the port of terminal. The empty cars, fleet of operation. Here is the block operations. You see the port terminal A and B and the port block A, B, C, and D as they move from one port to the other. And that's the full work of permissive block operation. During the operation, communication systems must adequately depend on sufficient slidings, passing, and tracking. Tracks must be available. The dispatcher issues the train orders, control movement. The train order remains effective until the fulfilled, superseded, and annulled. With the train authorizes the movements of the train when not provided by the timetable. Chapter 4 describes the train operation. Timetable operations. Using the timetable operation in the theater when the traffic is stabilized, the timetable contains the schedule special instructions relating to the train operation. It is also authority for the movement of the train. Military operational operations use the consisting of extra trains but not share own in the timetable, using the train order in the conjunction with the timetable for the maximum effect. See Chapter 4 for more discussions on the timetable operation. Note, for the four methods of the train operation are generally used in the order discussed in progress in the more flexible, precise timetable operations in stabilized areas. Using use of existing facilities. Using existing track facilities as much as possible in the theater operation expands capture track of the rehabilitated as needed. Capture track is rehabilitated as needed. If possible, avoid new track construction because of the manpower required. However, the new construction would take less time manpower for the rehabilitation. It is most advisable to the construction of the new track and the facilities that use panel track for the quick repairs and new construction in the theater. They can be built ahead of time, stored, and under the need for the following areas using the files of the requiring rehabilitation of the new construction. The mainline yards sidings. When new construction is required for the location and layout of the trucks, should consider current future requirements for the rehabilitation. General track surface must not be good enough. Must be good enough to meet the immediate requirements. The track improvement is undertaken only when necessary to meet the minimum requirements of safe operation. Service facilities. Adequate service facilities, such for example, fuel, sand, water servicing facilities, are vital important to the rail operation. Normally, the rail cars spend over the half of the use of the life in the terminals, and proper facilities do not exist or are not fully used, and congestion can occur. The single system. Only a new constructed rehabilitated line signals for the simplest kind of are installed. The automatic block signals, interlocking switches are maintained and used only if they exist. If you shall require the tight secure since the highly vulnerable to sabotage. Telephone and telegraph lines. These depend on the fastest method of patching trains by telephone. Existing telegraphing lines elsewhere converted to telephone operations. If sidings are equipped in telephone boxes, train crews help the train dispatcher to move the train in an emergency. Engine housing. The roundhouse and turntables are easily recognizable for the area, and in the area of subject to any of the engine, and the subject of the enemy, the attack engine facilities may have to avoid a roundhouse. If a roundhouse or turntables do exist, precautions should be taken to ensure that the locomotives would not become unless the facility were disabled. Newly constructed engine houses should be simply framed structures without complicated windows or doors. 124 rail units responsible for security, rail installations, equipment, rail shipments, security measures of the rail installation equipment, rail shipments at all levels of the rail transportation operation command responsibility. However, the commander of the rail units do not have the adequate organic personnel to provide necessary activity, security along with the rail lines to the guard of the bridges and tunnels, yards, and so forth, tampering of the primary rail mission and maintaining operation military road. 125, the security. Commanders must take all activity passive security measures that are within their capabilities. Commanders' rail units are the most operative coordinated with the Army Commander's local security agency, maximum extent consistent with the performance of the rail mission. Battlefield Security 126. Army operations will be fought deep and close and in the rear. The enemy will attack for the entire depth and width of the battlefield to obtain the victory. The attacks will introduce the threat force and tremendous destructive capabilities of the rear battlefield composed mostly of CS and CSS units. Main target for the enemy forces are the railroad lines and facilities, using most of it to protect against attempts to disrupt the operation. Since supporting combat operations primary requirement for the CSS operations units must be not diverted assessed to security defense that would be significantly reduce their support of capability. Enemy detection 127. Detection of the enemy. Responsibility for every soldier in the rear area. The detection is achieved with the observation, recon, surveillance. It is performed during all weather, light, and conditions and on any terrain throughout the rear area. Report of the unusual suspected activity. Use the activity of the passive measures to stop the enemy detection efforts and include use of day and night observation devices, communication, intelligence, radar, remote sensor, chemical, radiological detection equipment. The efforts have been provided with the early warning of enemy infiltration attempts to the use of chemical nuclear weapons. They also avoid aid in the preventing reactions to the false arms, such as movements friendly persons, deflectors, and refugees. Train security 128. You may use armored trains to patrol track and sabotage. Expect the locomotives to proceed with 2 or more cars loaded with sandbags and hard-packed dirt for the protection against mines and obstructions. One single track of the rail division is subject to the enemy. Employ the positive block method of operation. The method also allows trains to move forward, backward of the train and is blocked. If the train is unable to move in the mission, the escort commander must defend the train with the available personnel. If there's no escort, senior occupation who is appointed before the departure must defend the train. Shipment and security 129. Consignor shipper must ensure the carload freight is secured. The car is to be coupled to the locomotive leaving the loading site. Personnel must inform shippers of their responsibility before loading in a car. The shippers should thoroughly inspect to see if there meets any of the security requirements. The shipper must properly stow and brace the load in closed and sealed boxcars and closed cars. Improperly braced or stowed loads are susceptible to the damage of the train movement and pilferages. As protection, the sealing of the closed cars, the shipper will tightly twist 10-inch lengths of the number 8 and 10 gauge wire through locking eyes, closely snub off the wire ends and near number sealed, and no additional protection, no indicating tampering if broken. Unsecurely fasten tarpaulins to cover shipments in open top cars, which protection is required. And small items, ships of flat cars should be securely fastened in the car deck. Personnel will inspect on top of the car loads before movement to ensure the properly loaded and the load meets the clearance requirements. 130. Personnel responsibility for security shipments for the point of their origin to destination cosign and delivery. Personnel must document the rail shipments to effect the properly movement to prevent the cars from going astray. When operational feasible groups that contain the security shipment of the freight subject to pilferage together in the train's yards to reduce the number of the guard personnel required. The yard master chief dispatcher must coordinate with the yard and the train crews when the escort of the guard personnel ride in or on the cars containing sensitive material. Guard crews checks of the car seals and door fastens at every stop. They must all keep the trip record of the car number, the landing of all cars guarded. They should be deficiency of events of the occurring en route. The relief of the guards to take over the sign of the record, which also serves the delivery receipt. The trip record is transmitted to the MP channels to the unit at the end of the trip. And when the record is completed, when the car containing the critical pilferage supply is set off and en route. One more, the training guard crew must be detailed with the remaining of the car. The MP unit, military police will provide with the proper security in the freight and transit based on the assessed by the military police units. Units may provide security on the freight of the railway yards. 131. Co-signees assume the responsibility of securing and load of the freights at the time that they are placed in the designated depot or the unloading track. Unload of the cars as quickly as possible to reduce the chance of pilferage. Use the car and remove the wiring of the seals from the closed cars to avoid breaking the car door latches. Communication automatic data processing. The TA a responsibility for the reconstruction, rehabilitation, railway communication landlines use cable and primary means of the communication for the train operations. However, you may use a radio backup primary means of the communication when the construction and/or rehabilitation lines are not feasible. Rail units must be performing the following: operating, maintaining railway communication circuits used only for the operation and administration of the transportation railway system. Rail units are not responsible for maintenance of the ADP equipment. Install organizational communications such as local switchboards, telephone radios, and teletypewriters in yards, way stations, shops, and dispatch offices for normal administrative operational communications. The Transportation Rail Battalion installs operating, maintains, organized, and communication for administrative use. Wire communication system. The railway battalion uses wire facilities as one of the primary means for the communication of dispatch trains in the theater operation, following the three communication circuits provided by the operation within each railway division: the dispatcher circuit, the message circuit, station-to-station circuit, and the teletypewriter circuit. The dispatcher circuit, using exclusive the controlling of the train movement, the train order, and the controlling train throughout the tower. The men of the station agents within the division. The division dispatcher may call within each way of the station independently with the station simultaneously. The division dispatch monitors the line at all times. Way station personnel may take all the dispatchers on the circuit within the signal. The message circuit, station-to-station circuit, use of the block system operation with the division. All use the following operational supervision: control, daily special reports, car distribution of the movement over to the operational personnel, operational materials between the stations. Way stations are connected to each other and the division dispatchers. Any station contact with another station with the code signal. The teletypewriter circuit that joins the division and the dispatcher with the adjacent division dispatcher uses this written transmission train consistent with the operational orders, movement programs, general instruction, miscellaneous messages. The circuit may be superimposed under the message circuit. The radio communications. Mobile fixed radio communications increase efficiency, control, coordination, safety of the train movements. The radio equipment is organic to the railway operation units and is usually normal part of the railway operations. Use of the railway radio communications in yard, main tracking, and other operations units increase in the means of communication. Radio is subject to exploitation of the hostile communications intelligence or EW effects. The radio communications in the yard operations have the following advantages: yard crews notify the yard master's assignments for the compliant and immediately receive new assignments. Delays of the interlocking plan of the eliminated knowledge of the train location. Special movements such as hospital trains can be expedited. Delays can caused by derailment, damage to the cars or the cargo can be reported immediately. Arrival time can be determined more accurately through the communication with the incoming trains. Changes in train movements and orders rapidly dispersed. Radio communication equipment mounted to the road edges in which the station extends the communication for the way of the station moving the train. This is not intended for the taking the place of any communication system for which the CE units are responsible for the planned project. This is mainly the track radio communication furnishing the contract between the trains and dispatcher, between the trains and the way of the station, between the system stations using the equipment with the following advantages. If the train engineer is in an emergency and can call with the way station operator. If the train has to stop other trains with the range of the radio frequency, can advise to take necessary precautions. The train speed can be regulated to ensure the proper meetings of the passing point. Derailments can be reported immediately. Repair the crews are quickly dispatched. Crossing incentives that can be retorted to the military, police, medical assistance can be expedited. Train crews can be reduced to the time it stops. Can request the fuel and other supplies before arrival. The train engineer can be informed of the condition of the tracks as a result of snow, rock slides, or flash floods or bridge washouts. The train crew can properly report guerrilla operations, sabotage attempts, and air attacks. Automatic data processing. In 139, the automatic data processing system is used in the theater of if the system is available, it will be employed with the railway service. If the type of the automatic data processing system used in the small importance of the rail operator as long as the response of the railroad needs. However, the communication system must be able to provide interpreted services for 24 hours a day. The failure of communication systems to provide the service will completely destroy the value of the railway operations. Chapter 2, Railway Train Operations.